Alright, so let's talk about recursion. So, I'm gonna give you an example which is really silly, but is the easiest way to explain it, and it's the one using factorials. You know what a factorial is? So a factorial, for instance, if I say 5 factorial, is simply 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, right? That's 5 factorial. However, 5 factorial is also 5 times 4 factorial, right? And you know 4 factorial is 4 times 3 factorial. And 3 factorial is 2 factorial. I'm sorry, it's 3 times 2 factorial. And then 2 factorial is 2 times 1 factorial. And you know 1 factorial is simply 1, right? So, if you were to calculate a factorial of any number, you could do it using this, right? You will get the input from the user, and then you will go maybe do a for loop or while loop somehow, right? However, this other method, or this other syntax, if you will, you notice the 5 factorial, this is the factorial, right? Is 5 times the 4 factorial. And the factorial here is 4 times 3 factorial. So there's always a factorial of the number 1 minus the number we're looking for, right? Until we get to 1 factorial, which is just 1, right? So basically, in here, our factorial is basically our recursion. But the last one is not a recursion. So if it's not a recursion, we call this, let me use a different color. We call this our base case. So that's our base case here. When we reach 1 factorial, there's no more factorials to go. It's just our base case. So the factorials have, the recursion has advantage and disadvantages. The advantages is it requires maybe less code. The biggest disadvantage is it will use a lot of memory. Depends on the case. So we're gonna make a project. I'm going to call this factorial. And all I need is one class. So I'm gonna have the main there. I'm gonna call it main class. So in my main class, or my main method, I'm sorry, I should have my variable declaration, user input, my calculation section, and the output. I'm gonna use a console application because I don't want to be messing with GUIs right now. So I'm gonna have a scanner keyboard, so I'm gonna ask the user to enter a number. And of course I had to import the Java that utility, right? Why is this game in there? What did I do wrong here? So that's what I did. I almost done something wrong.
You did right, Bill.
Oh, thank you. See, it's like coffee takes probably like 30 minutes to kick in sometimes. Today kicked maybe 2 hours later. Alright, thanks. So, I need, the factorial number and maybe the answer. Answer, and it should be a comma. And I probably ask the user and the factorial will be keyboard dot next int, and I'm gonna do it here without using the recursion. So maybe I'll do for int I equal 1 to I less or equal then the factorial I plus plus. Oh wait, the answer should have a default value. Initial value, it should be 1. Otherwise, everything I multiply will be 0. Alright? So the answer is going to be whatever the answer had before times I. And then I just simply display the results. I'm just going to do factorial plus equal that should be straightforward, right? So I enter a number, enter 5. That says 5 factorial equals 120. But now, let's say I make a method for this. No. Private or public doesn't matter. Static in, I'm going to call it factorial. I pass a number. And in here, I could do something like this now. Let me cut this over. I'll put it here. And maybe I need to do int answer equal 1 and return the answer. And I didn't call it fact, I call it number here, num. So in my calculation sections, all I had to say is answer equal factorial of the number pass, right? Nothing has changed there. Still works. But now we're gonna write this method using recursion. To do that, I'm gonna comment all this out. And my factorial, I gotta check if the number is 1, right? So this is my base case. If the number is 1, what was the factorial of 1? 1, right? So all I gotta do is return 1. Right? Or the same number. Right? But if it's not, I gotta return that number times the factorial of that number minus 1. So check this out. If I do 5, I still get 120. So what's the difference between one or the other? Well, let's say you're copying files or deleting files or deleting all these files or reading all the files from a Windows directory like here. And you want to go in each folder and each file and trying to find a specific file, like doing a search. You want to go recursively in each folder. That's when you use it. Most of the time when you're like doing through folders. If it's a file, it's the base case. If it's another folder, you process the files from that folder and then pass the next folder on. So let me show you what happens in RAM from the beginning. So here is my scanner. So I allocate a scanner. Let's say my scanner is here. So this is a scanner. That's what the new does, right? Let's delete a couple so it fits all. And then I declare a variable type scanner. I'm going to be a pointer to a scanner. I call it KB, and its value is the address where the scanner was created, right? No big deal. Next line, I declare two integers. I got an int, I got another int. One is called factorial, which I don't know what it has. And I had another one called answer. It has the value 1. In this line, right? So the next one displays the user, hey, enter a number, right? And the user enter a number, and the number was 5. So this is a line 22 of the main. Next line is line 25, and it says whatever's on the right side of the equal sign gets a sign on the left side of the equal sign. Well, the right side of the equal sign is a method. That method returns an int. It's called factorial with a capital. And its value is, I don't know, question mark. And this method takes a parameter, type int, we call it num, and the original value was copied from this variable. So it had 5, right? So now it goes into this method. I'm here. And it says, is number equal 1? No. Then it goes to the else portion. And so it says return the number times, wait, it's called another factorial. Alright, so I'm gonna make this easier. I'm gonna move this out, and I'm gonna return answer here. Let me change this to make it easier to explain. So you can see better how it goes in memory, and return the answer here. I didn't change much here, right? I just declare a variable. If the number is 1, the answer is 1. If not, answer is the number times the factorial of 1 minus. Alright, so here I declare a variable called answer, which I don't know what it has. And I said if number, which is 5, is equal to 1 is false. So answer is gonna be that number 5 times. Oh, I gotta call this method called factorial. Computer doesn't know it's inside that method factorial. I don't know what the value is. But this method has a parameter called number, and the number here passed is 5 minus 1, so it'll be 4. So now I'm again here. The computer, once it's inside the method, doesn't know what's in, if it can call itself or another method. It doesn't matter. So I have a variable called answer here. And I don't know the value, but I make a if statement here. If the number is 1, which is 4, it's false, then we go, oh, answer is gonna be that 4 times. Oh man, I gotta call this other method called factorial again. You get the point? So look what happens. Now I don't know what the factorial is, but I know this method factorial has a variable type int called number, and now has a value 3. And it has a variable called answer. So every time I activate a record for this method, all the variables are created. Now number is 3. So is 3 equal 1? Nope. So I go to the else, and it happens once again. Gosh, I should have chosen 4 maybe. Alright, so that's alright. So again, I call this method factorial as a parameter type num. This time it has number 2 and has an answer, an integer called answer, which I don't know what it is. And it goes to the if statement. Is number 2 equal 1? Said no. Go back again here. So that means I call this method called factorial. And this method has a parameter called number. And this time it has the number 1 as parameter, right? The value is number is 1. And then I created an answer, which I don't know the value. So I'm in the if statement. Is number equal 1? Yeah, it is 1. So then the answer is 1, right? Goes here, right? And then it says return answer. So the return, what actually does, what it actually does is, whatever is after the return, that expression is evaluated and is put in here where the method name was. So our answer copies the value of answer into here, and whatever variable and parameter was created, they get deleted. And it goes back where it was called before. Where it was called before in here, when the number was 2. So now I know fact num, which is 1 here, number 1, and I had 2 times 1. Oh, I can just put answer equals 2 here. And then the next line, it says return the answer. Okay. So the factorial now gets the value, the method has the value 2. And all this goes away. Now I go back where I was called before. So I was when num was 3, and now I have number. The answer could be. I have 2 numbers to multiply. All right, that's easy. So the answer is 6. At that point, this gets released, and then answer is returned. Well, all it is copy this number into here, into an int here. And it keeps going down. The next one will be answer. Oh, number was 4, the factorial was 6. So now I can get the 24, and the factorial is released, and the answer is returned. The answer is 24, so let's put here. And this is released back to the operating system. I'm getting closer now, right? So now I'm back to the last one it was called, when number was 5. And I have 5 times 24, that is 120. This gets released. And then the answer is returned, so the answer is copied onto here. And then it goes back where it was called from, which was here. So now that 120 gets copied over here. And then the address is and the answer is displayed. So you notice how I was adding stuff to the memory. So this memory representation, we call it a stack. And I was adding stuff to the stack on top. We call it pushing. So we pushed stuff onto the stack. And notice we were releasing back to the operating system only the things that were on the top. We call that popping. So a stack you push and you pop. What would have happened if I had put the factorial of 10? You know how much memory was using, right? Why do you think happens when I reach this one? I try to add more.
Okay.
Well, if this is a stack, like let's think of it as your dirty laundry hamper. What happens when you keep putting stuff in your pile of dirty laundry?
Overflow.
Okay, so if this is called a stack, what do you think it's called?
Overflow.
Stack Overflow. That's where the website comes from. So when you push too many things into the stack, meaning you are trying to use more RAM that you were allowed to or allocated, you overflow it. But the code is really simple. Well, and the factorial is simple too if you just do a straight 4. But there are cases when you are, especially when you're manipulating arrays, you're supposed to read about and watch the videos about arrays. When you do search, binary search, it's easier to do recursion. So, let's put a breakpoint here. And let's run it so you see what I was doing. So, I enter the number 5. And now, the program is halted on the main class method main line 26. Right? The value of answer right now, this answer is 1. Lowercase factorial is 5. And if I do step into, which is this arrow, it goes to that method here. So I am in the factorial method. Notice I am here. I am on the main class method factorial line 9. So this is my stack. It says number, which is 5, equals 1. That means false. It's gonna go to the else part. Answer is number times, I'm gonna call this method called factorial. And now notice I am again on factorial method line 9, and it was called from this method called factorial line 12. And watch that. Now I have a third call to the same method. It's calling itself. Until finally the number is 1. Let's see how many times I have called that method. So now, number is 1, so this is going to be true. The answer is 1, and it's going to return the answer. So right now I'm on factorial method, line 13. That's the next one to execute. It's going to go back to the method that called this, which is the one below, and that line number. So it goes to 12. See? And now the answer is going to be just simply 2, and return to line 12 of the factorial. So I'm popping stuff out. See how it goes? And finally, I go back. Answer right now is 1, and this method factorial now has a single value, an integer called, which is 120. And then the answer is assigned, and the answer is displayed. So you need to read the difference between direct and indirect recursions, because I'm not going to ask you about that in the exam. And the programming question will be about arrays, so you want to make sure study those. The rest will be multiple choice. Any questions?
Is it going to be like the same length as the midterm?
Yeah. All right.